It's the ultimate battle for personal liberation. Which is better to escape the drudgery of a 9-to-5 job? Which one will give you more money and more freedom? Becoming an entrepreneur or becoming an independent professional? In this video, I'm forcing the two to face off in a cage match. Who's going to emerge victorious? You'll have to watch to the end of the video to find out. First, my name is Henry Bingaman, and I'm not entirely unbiased here. I started out as an independent pro and freelancer back in 2008, and while I struggled a lot in the beginning, I eventually learned the secrets and strategies for growing my income, and I got up to over 7 figures in a year. Today, I make videos like these to help new and aspiring independent pros like you make more money and enjoy their work more. All right, now let me introduce the fighters so we're all on the same page about who we're talking about. In one corner, we have entrepreneurship. Now, entrepreneurship is a very broad category. It includes everything from launching a social media app to launching your own accounting firm, could be buying an existing business and trying to grow it. In entrepreneurship, I'm counting any business that requires a team and can be scaled up high enough to make the founders very, very wealthy. And ideally, if you want at some point, you could sell or exit the business. In the opposite corner, we have the independent pro. Here, I'm counting solopreneurs, freelancers, consultants, coaches, contractors, lifestyle entrepreneurs. My main distinction is that independent pros can work alone. That doesn't mean they always have to work alone. Oftentimes, independent pros will work as part of a bigger team, or they'll have their own freelancers or virtual assistants or contractors. But at the end of the day, if you're an independent pro, you are the business. If a freelancer stops freelancing, or a consultant stops consulting, or a content creator stops creating content, there's no business left. Now, you might be a freelancer who also does content creation, also does coaching, and also sells products, which is what I do. But those are all different forms of independent pro income streams. All right, so for this cage match, we're gonna go 5 rounds. That's 5 different categories to decide which is the better option for wealth and freedom. Round 1, ease of getting started. So let's see what the entrepreneurs have here. Well, it's not looking good for them this round, honestly. For most truly entrepreneurial startups, it's expensive to get started. Now, if you have the right skills, you might be able to bring that down to just a few $1,000s to get started. For example, if you want to start a software company and you happen to be an expert software developer, also an expert UI designer, an expert marketer, then you could afford to spend all of your time on developing and selling your product. It can be fairly cheap to start out. Of course, if you're only an expert in one of those areas, you could partner with an expert in other areas and still keep the cost down, but then you're giving away equity in the company and it gets a little more complicated the more people you bring into a startup. But what typically happens when an entrepreneur is starting out, he needs to invest a lot in equipment, employees, real estate, rent. It's a lot of upfront capital. And let's not forget about marketing, because unless you already have a following, nobody's going to know about your new business when you first start it. So you have to find ways to get free publicity, which is a skill in itself, or you have to pay for advertising, which is another skill. Now, if you don't have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest, you have 2 options. You can take on debt or you can find investors. The problem is, unless you have an established business record, it's going to be very hard to get banks to loan you money. Even if you do have a record, they're pretty picky about who they lend to and how much. So the best option is taking on investors for most entrepreneurs. And because any new business is risky, investors are going to want to own a big piece of your company if they're giving you any startup capital. Remember, 70% of new businesses fail or the owner quits in the first 5 years. So any investor or lender is taking a big risk automatically. Now, depending on your business, it may be more or less expensive to get started, but the expense is a big barrier to entry for entrepreneurs. Now, let's look at the independent pro side. The costs are minimal. You're going to need a computer and an internet connection and basic equipment and software for doing your work. If you're a videographer, you're going to need a video camera. If you're an engineer, there's specialized software you need. However, for most independent pros, writers, designers, you probably already own almost everything you need. And if you do have to save up to buy the right equipment, it's not going to take you very long. So the price is not a significant barrier to entry. And for most independent pros, you don't need a license, you don't need an official office, you don't need business permits. In the beginning, you don't even need insurance or a legal business entity like an LLC or S Corp. You'll want to add those as you grow, but you can make your first $1,000, $10,000, maybe $20,000 or more without any business structure. Mostly what you need is a skill that's valuable to other businesses and the willingness to work very hard. So for ease of getting started, this is absolutely no contest. The independent pro scores a huge win in round 1, but this fight is just getting started. So let's go on to round 2, earning potential. Now, I have to start this round with a disclaimer. It's really hard to find accurate income data to compare entrepreneurs to independent pros because the most accurate data is from the IRS, and the IRS does not make a distinction between the two. So if you lump all the data together, the average for both groups seems to be in the $68,000 to $85,000 a year range. But the average net worth of an entire homeless shelter plus Elon Musk is still billions of dollars. So averages are just not useful numbers when we're looking at this kind of stuff. Instead, what I want to look at is realistic potential here. That means I'm going to chop off some of the most extreme examples. So I'm not going to talk about entrepreneurs like Jeff Bezos. And then I'm not going to talk about independent pros like Mr. Beast or Taylor Swift or somebody who's just a huge outlier. So we'll start with the last round's winner first, the independent pros. Earning potential here is honestly all over the map. Most of the research shows that independent professionals typically out-earn their employed counterparts by a significant margin. Now, in my experience, it's not terribly difficult to get over $100,000 a year in income as an independent pro. I know a lot of freelancers who started making that much in their early to mid-20s. Freelancers and independent pros that are very talented and have a couple years of experience can start making $200,000 to $400,000. That's not that uncommon. And I personally know at least 10 people who have made over $1 million a year as independent professionals, and I know of hundreds more in that category. So while it's rare, $1 million can be a realistic goal if you have the right talents, if you develop certain skills, and if you build up multiple sources of income. Again, it's going to take a lot of work. I'm not saying it's easy. However, when you start getting to the $2 million to $5 million income range, it almost becomes necessary to build a team around you, and then you transition from solopreneur or independent pro to more of an entrepreneur. Or you're going to risk burnout and your income might go to zero if you get burnt out enough. All right, now the opposite corner, the entrepreneur's income potential. As we saw in the last round, there's a much bigger hurdle to get over to launch your business as an entrepreneur. However, once you clear that hurdle, what is the earning potential? Well, technically, it's unlimited. I know I said I'm going to cut out the outliers, but I have met and actually worked with a lot of people who've made between $2 million and $40 million a year as true entrepreneurs. Now, those guys took years to get to that level, and they worked incredibly hard. But once their businesses became well-oiled machines and they got the right people and the right systems in place, their incomes very quickly outpaced even the highest paid independent pros I know. That's the whole point of being an entrepreneur. You can scale that business up and up and up and become very, very wealthy. So this round is an absolute no contest. For earning potential, entrepreneurs win in a landslide. So cage match is all tied up, one round apiece. Let's go to round 3, the risks. Both sides have risk. So let's start with last round's winner again, entrepreneurs. When you run a business, there are a ton of risks. First of all, the more employees your business has, the bigger your chance that one of them does something to damage your business. For example, one of my old clients once had an employee steal over $1 million from them. He had a company credit card that was supposed to pay for advertising. This client was spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on advertising every month. So this guy figured nobody would notice if he used tens of thousands of dollars a month to advertise, I shit you not, his rap career. He eventually got caught, and I'm pretty sure he went to jail, but that was a very expensive employee. Then there are risks of new laws or regulations on your specific industry. If you're doing anything that could be considered a pollutant or anything in the financial space, new regulations come on those types of things all the time. So you have to be very careful and keep your ear to the ground at what's happening politically that could affect your business, which is a pain in the butt. And then there's the risk that your product gets outdated. Look, if your main business is selling toupees, then somebody invents a pill that magically regrows hair without any side effects, your business is in trouble, my friend. And when you're a big enough company, you have competing companies that want to take you out. Just look at how competitive Instagram has to be with TikTok. Everybody keeps stealing features from each other just so they don't get left in the dust. Then, of course, as an entrepreneur, there's the risk of overextending yourself or your business. Look, I had a client go out of business because they borrowed a lot of money to try and grow their business, but they tried to grow too fast. So they borrowed all this money, they made investments, these investments didn't pay out, and then they eventually had to declare bankruptcy. They just couldn't repay the loans. It's terrible, but it happens. Now, you can definitely manage your risk as an entrepreneur, but you always have to be on your toes. And you have to put systems in place to make it harder for catastrophes to really sneak up on you. Now, for the independent pro, the main risk everybody thinks about is inconsistent income, that dreaded feast and famine cycle. So for a few months, you might have more work than you can handle and you're just rolling in cash. Then a few months after that, you've totally run out of clients, your cash is gone, and you're worried about making enough money to pay rent. Now, don't worry, that risk is mostly for newer independent pros. The longer you stick with it, the more you work on your reputation, the more you work on your testimonial skills, the more and more consistent and the higher your income will get. The bigger risk is that your skills or your offering will get outdated. For example, let's say for 10 years you've been a freelance proofreader. Not a very high income freelance career, but let's say it's been paying the bills. Now all of a sudden there's AI. Clients can just upload their document to ChatGPT or Cloud or any of the other bots out there now, and in about a minute, it does a decent job at something that would have taken a human proofreader a few hours to do. That can look like a big problem. Of course, there is a solution. I call it the skill stack. I have a whole product around it. Check the link in the description. It shows you how to find a set of skills that make you totally unique and guarantees you'll never be overrun by AI, and you can really boost your income. But here's my point. If you're always developing new skills and staying on top of the trends, you can virtually eliminate the risk of becoming outdated. Now, you as an independent professional also face some of the same risks of regulation and law changes that entrepreneurs do. The good news is, as an independent pro, you can just move. I'm not saying that's ideal or that you'd want to have to pick up and move, but it's much easier for an independent pro to just pick up than for a whole company with employees and offices and leases and inventory to pick up and move. You can live an incredible lifestyle in different parts of the world at a much lower price if you want. Again, another clear winner here. The risks for the independent professional are just much, much lower. The independent pro pulls ahead by one round. Now, on to round 4, longevity. Which is more sustainable, being an independent professional or being an entrepreneur? Well, I know independent pros who work at still very high levels, well into their 70s, maybe even their 80s. In fact, they never plan on retiring ever just because they like the work they've been doing, and they've been doing it so long at this point, it's just easy. They can do all the things everyone else does in their retirement, like traveling or golfing or boating or whatever else people do, and they never have to stop working and making money, so why would they? So maybe they scale it back, but they made so much money in their life as an independent pro that it doesn't really matter and they can always earn more. If you're an independent professional, you can keep doing it well into your golden years. So let's look at the opponent. Turns out entrepreneurs have the exact same opportunities. Once they've gotten over those initial hurdles and they put those systems in place to mitigate risks, they can be as involved or uninvolved in their business as they want to be. Here's the main difference. An independent professional can't leave his business to his or her kids, but an entrepreneur can. On the simple fact that entrepreneurs' businesses can outlive them, they win on longevity. So we're all tied up and it's going into the last round. Round number 5 is career satisfaction. So it all comes down to this. Who will win in the round of which is more satisfying? All right, I'm going to spoil it. This one's actually up to you. It really is the most important question, but I can't answer it for you. Entrepreneurship is harder, but it comes with bigger financial rewards. Being an independent professional has somewhat of a capped income, although it's in the 7 figures, but it's also an incredibly liberating life choice. And you can make incredible money with much lower risks. So it really depends on you. You get the final vote in this cage match. However, let me make one suggestion. I think the best career path is both. Start as an independent professional. You'll get to see the inner workings of dozens, maybe hundreds of businesses. You'll learn critical entrepreneurial skills, and you'll build a big network. Then, after a few years, you can grow that independent professional career into an entrepreneurial one. And it can happen fairly naturally. For most of my independent career, I was just a freelancer. And then I started adding coaching. And then I started doing content creation. And now I have online products that I sell. So I'm transitioning to building a team and a real entrepreneurial business right now. But I almost guarantee if I'd tried to do what I'm doing today, 10 years ago even, I would have failed spectacularly. I would have been part of that 70% of new businesses that don't make it. But I was able to get to this point in a great position to succeed because of all the years I worked as an independent professional, as a freelancer. So that is the path I recommend to almost everyone. Start as an independent pro, then see if you want to be an entrepreneur after that. You might be perfectly happy with the lifestyle you have as a freelancer, consultant, or any type of independent professional. Of course, if you have a great business idea and you're really driven to make it real, go for it. Some people are just natural born entrepreneurs. But most of us who care about freedom and independence and making money, we're simply entrepreneurial, not natural entrepreneurs. Meaning we have leaning to that direction, but it's not our core burning passion. Now, as I mentioned earlier, one of the most important things for growing your independent career is differentiating yourself. If you want to break through to higher and higher income levels, your clients have to see you as the only option for them. And that means you need to position yourself in a way that nobody else could possibly replicate. And to help you do that, I've developed a quick exercise that allows you to define your unique mobile money skill stack and create a viral pitch around it that ensures your best clients hear about you in the best possible light. So to find out more about that, there's a link in this description, or you can go to henrybing.co/skills. Again, that link is in the description. All right, guys, see you in the next one.